Hello, friends. The 728th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. According to Ukrainian telegram channels, on the Avdiivka sector of the front, the enemy continues assault operations in Stepovy and Pervomysky. Along the forest belts east of Lastochkiny, Russian troops are attempting to improve the tactical situation with the aim of subsequent attacks on the populated area with a wider coverage. Deputy Commander of the 3rd Assault Brigade Joran writes that in the Avdiivka direction today everything is generally clear. The Russians will advance as far as they have enough strength and depending on which of them survives. A difficult situation is expected in other directions. Moreover, from Avdiivka, they began to transfer the surviving Russian units to other sectors of the front. In general, very difficult battles await us. I spoke about this last year. The Russians have been preparing all this time. They were preparing forces, reserves, they saved up weapons and equipment, and they prepared. Now Russia is beginning to systematically use all this on the battlefield. In the near future, I think, there will be a difficult situation in the south and in the Kharkiv direction, Joran wrote. Meanwhile, the New York Times, citing estimates by the Ukrainian military themselves and senior Western officials, writes that during the retreat of the Ukrainian army from Avdiivka, up to 1,000 Ukrainian soldiers could have been captured. Estimates of the number of captured and missing Ukrainian soldiers vary. 2 soldiers interviewed by reporters gave figures ranging from 850 to 1,000. Western officials, the newspaper writes, find this assessment accurate. They believe that the withdrawal of Ukrainian troops was poorly planned and began too late. The situation, as the publication writes, was aggravated by the fact that Russian troops surrounded the city on almost 3 sides. As Ukrainian military personnel told the publication, during the withdrawal there were problems with communication, which is why the soldiers were captured or left wounded and killed on the battlefield. In turn, the spokesman for the Tavria group, Likovoy, called the information from the New York Times fake, that up to 1,000 soldiers were captured when the Ukrainian army left Avdiivka. We were unpleasantly surprised, to put it mildly, by this publication, because we gave our commentary on this matter, which was justified, and it seemed that everything should logically fall into place. But, unfortunately, I don't know whether the authors of the New deliberately, the New York Times spread the Russian propaganda narrative without any justification. The sources they cite are absolutely unfounded, because there are no such people, and this is not a fact. Likovoy said, although he confirmed that a certain number of military personnel did not get in touch after the withdrawal of troops. This is not hundreds of people. I note that in recent days the Russians have published several videos allegedly of captured Ukrainians from Avdiivka. They show dozens of prisoners, but not hundreds or thousands. By the way, a similar situation occurred during the retreat of Russian troops from the western bank in the Kherson region. After it, there were a lot of rumors and information about many thousands of Russians who allegedly did not have time to leave and remained on the West Bank. But with the exception of isolated cases, no prisoners have been presented since then. Russian telegram channels announced the capture of the village of Pobieda in the Maryanka direction. They publish a video showing their military raising a red flag on one of the houses in the village. Pobieda is home to a large fortified area of the Ukrainian armed forces. This fortified area prevented Russian movement towards the village of Konstantinivka, a key point on the logistics route to Vuhledar. The capture of Pobieda could pose a threat from the northwest to the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces in Novomikhailivka, which also included Russian troops. All these battles in this direction, according to experts, are aimed, firstly, at preparing an attack on Vuhledar from the north, and secondly, to create a threat from the southern flank for Ukrainian units in the village of Yevhenii, which is on the way from Maryanka, already captured by the Russians, to Kurahovy. Meanwhile, Ukrainian telegram channels report that the enemy has occupied most of the village of Pobieda and the territory of farms located to the east. There was no official confirmation from the General Staff that the Russians had entered the village. The Russians are attacking the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces in Robotyny with high-speed ATVs and small infantry groups, General Tarnowski reports today. It is stated that the Russian attacks were not successful. At the same time, according to Ukrainian telegram channels, during the counterattack our forces knocked out Russian troops from the fortified area south of Yevhenii and pushed them back from the western outskirts and western forest belt. The advance of the defense forces in the area amounted to a width of up to 1.83 kilometers and a depth of up to 530 meters. At the same time, north of Novoprokopivka, the enemy advanced and entrenched itself in an area up to 2 kilometers wide and to a depth of up to 650 meters. It is also reported that the tempo of hostilities remains high. The Southern Defense Forces called Shoigu's statement about the capture of Krynki manipulation and falsification. Let me remind you that yesterday Shoigu said that Krynki came under the control of Russia. We officially inform you that this information is not true. The defense forces of southern Ukraine continue to hold their positions, inflicting significant losses on the enemy, the Southern Defense Forces said in a statement. It is reported that over the past day the Russians made one assault attempt, but it was repelled by the Ukrainian armed forces. Ukrainian telegram channels also report that positional combat operations continue in Krynki. The Ukrainian armed forces retain control over previously occupied positions. Some Russian telegram channels write that all the fuss about the supposed release of Krynki was organized for the sake of an individual receiving the rank of general. The Ukrainian armed forces yesterday struck a Russian military formation near Volnovakha, killing dozens of people, the BBC reports. Presumably, the strike was carried out by 2 missiles from the HIMARS multiple launch rocket system. For obvious reasons, I cannot publish the result of the strike on YouTube. Presumably, there are about 65 dead on the Russian side. Officially, Ukraine and Russia did not comment on this. Friends, preparing these daily reports has become my full-time job, and I have no other job for obvious reasons. There have been few views on the channel lately, which is why I ask for your help. If you have the opportunity to support me financially, I would be very grateful. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.